Case Analysis Part 4. Option Analysis. Step 1. This video will discuss the third link in the chain of your case analysis, option analysis. Here we'll cover how to come up with options, and then we'll spend some time covering the 4 questions your option analysis must answer. So far, you've performed a situation analysis to determine what your critical issues are. You've developed decision criteria, which are SMART performance metrics the company must meet to resolve the critical issues. Now we're going to start looking at options. What your intention is here is to assess whether an option will change the performance of the company such that it meets the decision criteria you've selected, thereby solving the critical issues. The first step is coming up with options. So where do you get them? Well, in many classroom cases, the case itself will present these options. These are ideas the manager or the business discuss. If your case presents a number of options, you must analyze those options. You can't ignore them. If your boss comes to you with a bunch of ideas she wants you to evaluate, you must evaluate them. Otherwise, why is she hiring you? Sometimes, though, classroom cases do not present options. Also, if you're dealing with a real-life company rather than a classroom case, you'll probably not ever be given options either. In these situations, you need to get creative. You need to look at the critical issue the company is facing. Look at the decision criteria you've set. Look at the resources the company has. Then, brainstorm a bunch of ideas of what the company could do to achieve those decision criteria, and thus resolve the critical issues. Of these brainstormed ideas, select 3 or 4 to analyze. So, what does analyzing options mean? It means providing a realistic answer to the following 4 questions. How much will this option cost? Will this option allow the company to meet my decision criteria? How profitable will this option be? In what ways can this option go wrong? These are the questions business people want to know. You must provide a credible answer to all 4 questions for every single option that you consider. If any one of these questions is not answered for even one option, then your option analysis is incomplete and your report will fail to meet its objectives. Well, why so harsh, man? Well, remember what I just said. These 4 questions are the questions business people want to know before proceeding with any course of action. If you do not provide a credible answer to each of these questions, then the business person does not have the information they need to decide if this option is a good idea or not. Alright, so let's look at each of these 4 questions in more detail. Question 1. How much will this option cost? This is often a straightforward question to answer. A classroom case will often present cost information. In real life, you can call vendors to get quotes. Now, there are 2 things you should think about here when you're trying to figure out what the costs are. First, can the company actually afford this option? If the company does not have enough money to afford it, you might as well forget about it right away. Second, how expensive is this option relative to the company's operating budget? If the option costs relatively little compared to the operating budget, then it is less risky than if the option costs a large percentage of the operating budget. So, pro tip, do not ever tell me something is free. I've been around the block enough times to realize that nothing is free. If you tell me something is free, all you've demonstrated is you do not understand the real costs of your option. Oh, but teacher, a company could create a Facebook page and a Twitter account, and those are free. Well, to that I reply, hogwash. Social media must be managed. Someone has to create content and post it and reply to comments. This takes time. Time is money. Your job is to figure out how much money it'll take. Oh, but teacher, A company could reduce the price of its product to attract new customers. That won't cost them anything. To this, I reply, balderdash. By reducing price, I earn less revenue per unit sale. That loss in per unit revenue is a cost. Figure out that cost. Lowering price only makes sense if you can prove to me my increased sales volume will cover my lower per unit revenue. Also, how am I going to communicate my new prices to customers? I have to advertise that to them. Promotions cost money. You need to figure out these costs. So don't tell me something will be free. Just don't. Ever. Okay, question 2. Will this option allow the company to meet my decision criteria? Remember, the whole goal of this process is to resolve the company's critical issues. Your decision criteria are performance metrics that, if met, demonstrate the company has resolved the critical issues. You therefore must make projections of how close each option will get the company to your decision criteria. For example, if your decision criteria is increase profits by 10% in the next year, and your option is implement an ad campaign in the city newspaper, then you must make a projection. You must forecast how much profits will increase due to your new ad campaign, and then determine whether that increase in profits will hit the 10% target that you've set within a year. By now, maybe you're wondering how on earth you're going to make these types of forecasts. I'll give you some tips on this in the next lecture in this video series, so hold that thought for now. In the meantime, let's move on with question 3. Question 3. How profitable will this option be? I mean, we're in business here. Options must generate a return that will cover the option's cost and add to profits. If the option does not add monetary value to the business, what good is it? Sometimes maybe you might choose an option that earns a loss because that option will give you a greater benefit in another area of the business. Well, if that's the case, then you must demonstrate that. Show me the benefit. If there's no net benefit, then the option's a bad idea. All right, question number 4. In what ways can this option go wrong? This is where you get to show off your thinking process. Personally, I often find the difference between an A paper, a B paper, and a C paper resides in how well the paper addresses this question. So this is a question you want to handle well. This question is composed of 2 parts. The first part is identifying the weak spots in your projections. You may notice that to answer the first 3 questions, you need to make projections. If your projections are wrong, then the option will fall apart. So identify the major assumptions that you made to come up with your projections. Defend those assumptions. Why do you believe your assumptions are realistic? How wrong can those assumptions be before the whole plan falls apart? If a small change in your assumptions cause the option to fall apart, then maybe it's high risk. But on the other hand, if your assumptions can change quite a lot and the option's still good, maybe that's a less risky option. So show me you understand the weak spots in your projections. Show me your projections are defensible, and show me you understand where the risks are in your projections. Okay, the second part of this 4th question is considering unintended consequences of the option. For example, do you want to lower salary of your sales force to reduce operating costs? Well, think about it. What could be some unintended consequences of that? How dangerous are those unintended consequences? Is there anything the company can do to protect itself from these unintended consequences? Through answering this 4th question, you demonstrate to me you have a realistic appreciation for the risk of the option you are proposing. There is no such thing as a risk-free option. If you try to convince me your option is risk-free, I will think you are being naive and blind to the dangers surrounding your business. Show me you can see the risks of each option. Okay, so that's an introduction to option analysis. I covered how to come up with options, as well as the 4 questions of option analysis. Remember, you must present a credible answer to each of those 4 questions for every single option you present, or your report fails. Alright, the next video in this series is going to discuss how to find data to make the projections needed to answer these 4 questions.